Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Backroom podcast. Hope you guys having a fantastic week. I know I am. Guys, I know it's been a few weeks since we last posted, but you know what? We had some work to get done, but you know what? We're bringing it back better than ever right now. And with what better movie other than Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead? If you guys don't know, the movie comes out on Netflix this Friday, but it held a previous week before for theatrical screenings, only in a limited amount of theaters throughout the country. So go out, see it in the theater because this truly needs to be experienced in the theater, especially IMAX. I can't wait to see this in IMAX. But without further ado, I've got a guest with me, my friend Jacob. What is
Nothing
going on,
much.
man?
Nothing much. Yeah, I agree. Everything you said. If you can go see this out in theaters before it comes on Netflix, I'd greatly recommend doing that.
No, yeah. Now we got to go back, like way before the DCEU, back to Snyder's first project, which was a zombies remake of the George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Dude, it's one of my favorite all-time horror slash zombie films. So when we found out that Snyder was kind of going back to his roots, the very first thing he directed and made for our eyes to deceive us in, I was super excited. And then you hear Dave Bautista is gonna lead this movie. I mean, how else could you not be excited for this, especially after the trials and errors of the DCEU? Because he's only made two movies since Man of Steel, almost, I would say, 8 years at this point, Justice League and Batman v Superman. And now he's getting out of that element, taking a step back on a project that he's had scripted since right after he finished Dawn of the Dead, maybe in between that moment. It's not too clear, but right around that time Dawn of the Dead came out, he had this idea for the Army of the Dead or something along the lines of what we saw. But before we get into heavy spoiler, guys, Jacob, what are just some of your cool opinions, thoughts of this film without giving away too many
So,
spoilers?
I have to be blunt. I've never seen his Dawn of the Dead. I do know a cool story of it though. I know that me and Ricky, the guy I podcast with, we interviewed the director of Hustle and Flow, and he said that I can't remember which film festival he was at, but he was in an elevator with James Gunn when James Gunn got the message of like, "Hey, you should write this film."
Oh
And
shit.
James Gunn literally sat there. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said he was sitting there with James Gunn, and James Gunn was like, "Fuck, they want me to do the Dawn of the Dead remake." And Craig Brewer, the Hustle and Flow, and he directed Coming to America. He was like, "Well, are you going to do it?" And he was like, and James Gunn was basically like, "Well, if I don't do it, someone's going to." So that's how James Gunn got casted or got on to do that. But yeah, I mean, going back to this one, I think it's like you said, he's only done two films because he's kind of been stuck in that DC rut, I'd say, since.
Yeah.
And I think, the one thing that I really could pull from this, and everyone knows Zack Snyder's known for director's cuts, longer editions, whatever. He actually like finally for once in his career was given like full reins to do whatever he wanted, and I mean I think he took full advantage of it. And no spoilers just yet, but he like if you thought of a way to kill a zombie or just like destroy something, I think Zack Snyder's already thought about it because he had every sort of weird and wacky kind of deaths and shots. And this is also the first film that he actually like shot himself, like he was the DP on. And so
He was
yeah,
everything on
and
this
so
film.
it's just blows my mind. But yeah, I think he finally like got that freedom to really just do whatever he wants. And I think that's one thing that Netflix gives to filmmakers more than other studios. And people say, oh, Netflix isn't like a theatrical type of studio or whatever, but they really do give filmmakers all of the leeway and control that they want. And so I think Zack Snyder really did take kind of full advantage of what he was given in this.
No, yeah. Honestly, the biggest thing when I got out of this film is it was kind of a breath of fresh
Hmm.
air in a sense, like you were saying that Snyder finally gets to be 100% creative in this film, and it really shows just by the credits alone. He's the cinematographer, the director, the writer, the producer. So this man made sure that nobody was getting in his way this time, and he was going to make the movie that he wanted to make. And give so much credit to him because I think this just shows compared to the DC movies that once you give this man the freedom and creativity he has, then you've got a banger on your hands, at least in my opinion, because this is just a fun blast of a film. This is kind of a 180 compared to Dawn of the Dead, where Dawn of the Dead was more of a horror suspense, where everyone was held down in a mall for a good portion of the film. And in this one, people are running and gunning, blowing up zombies, fucking
No,
WWEing into
yeah,
walls and stuff.
yeah.
Like, it's almost the exact 180. And I gotta say, the cast was as phenomenal as they could be with some of their selective roles we'll get into with it in a little bit. But further ado, guys, a spoiler alert at this point because this film is just so much is going on that you can't talk spoilers. And I just want to give credit to having one of the best opening credit scenes
Yes.
of all
Yep.
time. Literally watched this right before I even saw the film, like a day or so when they released it on IGN or something. And I was trying not to watch it because I wanted to go like a fresh pair of eyes into this film. But I'm just like, Zack Snyder zombies, yeah, I'm not holding back. And I'm really glad I didn't because now I've got Viva Las Vegas stuck in my head all day long. And it's just insane. It just shows you what Snyder can do with comedy and the zombie horde because I think this is a relatively one of the more unique zombie films that we have seen in some time. But I'll let you talk about the beginning, the opening credits, and all that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. The opening, like, it really pulls you in really fast. I mean, within what 5 minutes of the movie, someone's getting roadhead, like driving into a military, like industrial complex or something. Like, it's just like that sort of like super like bombastic and like way out there kind of stuff. It can really overlap some of the like more tropey, like dumb aspects of it. And I think like just in that opening sequence alone, I was so locked into everything that Snyder was wanting to do. And I was like this is like what I needed from him because it's like it's so weird like from Snyder because you think when you think Zack Snyder you think Watchmen, you think 300, you think the DC movies, like all like dark, you know, heavy type of movies, and then he comes
Yeah.
out with something like this and it's like, oh, like this is what he should have been doing the whole time. And people are going to hate it, and I just have to say it, like this proved that I think he would have been so much better directing an or MCU movie than he would have been a DC movie because he completely got every bit of emotion, like humor, action, like all of it he got down. And this is I need to like let people know I am not a Zack Snyder fan at all. I This is really the only of his movies other than Justice League probably that I've actually like liked, not like loved, but I've actually like liked. You know, I wasn't a big fan of 300, wasn't a big fan of Watchmen, wasn't a big fan of his DC movies, and it's like for me to be talking about him in this light, it's like that's how kind of different and how good I at least thought he was with this movie.
No, honestly, you hit it right on the head with Zack Snyder. He's one of the most unique filmmakers, but also one of the most diverse of at the time. Even pre Justice League reshoot problems and all that, you can see that he's just made so many different films from 300, the second 300, Rise of an Empire, Dawn of the Dead, Army of the Dead, to Man of Steel.
Guardians of the
He has such
Gahul.
a unique filmography. Yeah, like he's got such a fucking unique filmography that I'll be honest, I prefer much more of his own scripts and
Mhm.
visions and stories compared to the DC films that he was doing. I'm a big fan of Man of Steel, but BVS, and I wasn't the person that fell in love with Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked it at best, but it's without a saying, dude. This is easily one of his best films. I think I ranked all of his films today, and I think this is number two. I think Dawn of the Dead just beat it out for me, and that's probably because of James Gunn. We'll get to that a little bit later in like the negatives and stuff. But on keeping with the positives, I think Dave Bautista brought such a nuance and force to this movie that I'll even be honest that I was kind of shocked with. Like I knew the man had the emotional concept within him to bring it out and show. And we saw that in Blade Runner 2049 with the small screen time that he had in it. And we obviously all know he's got the comedic chops. But man, I'll tell you, when they show the flashback between Scott and Kate being attacked by the mother
Mhm.
slash wife, turning into a zombie and going after Kate, and watching Scott having to deal with the pain of knowing he has to kill his zombified wife, if he doesn't, she'll probably
Yeah.
kill both of them. And I'll be honest, dude, like it broke my heart. I was not expecting that from not only Dave Bautista, but even from Zack Snyder a little bit, because I haven't seen Zack give this type of emotional nuance to a character, especially in a zombies film within, I would say, maybe the first 20 minutes and not really know anything about who they are or what's really going on in this world. What are your takes on
Yeah,
this whole
no,
thing,
I
Jacob?
think that's one of the big things. And when I wrote, my review about it, I think that's the one thing I pointed out is this movie. When you went into it, you knew what it was going to be. It was going to be a zombie like shoot 'em up. It was going to be like a Ocean's 11 with zombies. That's kind of what you thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. It didn't need this sort of emotional aspect behind it to be a good movie. If it would have had zero of the emotion, I would have come out and said, you know what, that was a fun movie. I enjoyed it, whatever. But I think the reason I ended up liking it so much was because of that kind of emotion that you said that, like, mainly Dave Bautista brought to it. And I think, Dave Bautista, he really is like one of the most, I can't think of the word, but like, yeah, yeah,
Versatile?
yeah, yeah. Kind of actors that we have right now. And I don't think he's the overall best actor among the, wrestlers turned actors. You've got Mickey Rourke, who should have won an Oscar for The Wrestler. And you've got, I personally think The Rock is a very good actor, but I think that Dave Bautista takes the most amount of risks. And I think with that risk, he has those same rewards. I mean, like it's like you said, like we've seen the comedic things in Guardians of the Galaxy, but we also like even in Guardians of the Galaxy, we've seen that really like emotional side of him where he lost his family and he's dealing with that like from
Yeah.
Thanos and everything. And in this movie, it's like you said, like, and that's okay. So before I get into this, I think that's another thing. Zack Snyder's like slow mos finally like fit into the film and worked. That
Yes.
I was like,
Right? Oh
I
my
was
God. I was about to
I
say the
was
same
wondering the
thing.
whole time. I was like, okay, like he made Justice League a 4.5 hour movie that could have been 3.5 hours if you took all the slow mo out. But in this one, I was like, wondering. I was like, where is the slow mo going to be? And it actually like he used it so well. And it's like you said with the scene where he ended up having to kill his wife. It's like that scene alone just kind of blew me away because he, if you've seen it, he puts
Yeah.
down the gun and he turns to the knife and it's like a slow mo of him like stabbing her in the brain. It's just like holy shit, man! Like it's that dark and it's that emotional that it really makes you feel for these characters in a movie that you kind of went into the movie knowing all the characters were disposable. And of course, like we'll get to that.
Oh
Like at
yeah,
the end, all the characters end up being disposable. Like everyone except his daughter, maybe, but now she's like
daughter.
trapped in the desert with with radiation all around her, and um, all that kind of stuff. But it's like you knew all of it was going to be disposable, but you still within the 2.5 hours, you still had enough care for all of these people. And that's what I was talking to people before going into the movie. And I personally, I'm a fan of longer movies if the length matches what the movie needs to be. If you've got a 3 hour movie for the sake of being three
Yeah,
hours, that's a different story. But I really think in this one, like, I don't know about you, there's nothing I would have cut out of this movie. And I like even like some of the slower moments were moments where I could like take a step back, breathe for a second before we went back into the action. And I think a lot of those were filled with those emotional beats from Dave Bautista, from his daughter, even like the kind of friendship between Vanderho and like Dieter was so
yeah,
quick, but it's like through this like small thing you really like learned about their friendship. And in the end, when he like shoved him into the
the
vault and
vault.
closed it, I
Yeah,
was damn, it really made me feel. And I was like,
yeah.
this is not what I like came into this movie trying to feel. And I think, yeah, I think that mainly Dave Bautista, but I think like a lot of that emotional aspect is what really like put this film above like that kind of like good to great barrier, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the thing that I like that Zach does when is those emotional moments, he goes to
Hmm.
handheld. So it's really dirty and raw when you're up close in the actor's face, like you're feeling the distress that they're in. And he does this editing style with his lens. I don't remember. I was watching a video on it earlier. I don't remember the name of the lens he used for this, but I don't know if you obviously noticed whenever they would go like up close,
Yep, yep, I
close
know
up shot
exactly what you're
for
talking
them,
about.
they would pretty much go
Yep.
all blurry on the side. And I think it worked some of the time. I don't think it worked all the time. It seemed kind of unnecessary on some shots, but I think it in particularly worked well with the handheld shooting that Zach did for a lot of the emotional scenes. Like we were talking about, especially when he was killing his wife. And I feel like all those things combined really just fit perfectly between the way he shot it, the lens he was using, the slow motion, Dave Batista and Ella Purnell's acting. It all just accumulated so well in that. And like you were saying, between Vanderho and Dieter, their relationship had a good buildup throughout this film that I wasn't personally
Hmm.
expecting. I think that Vanderho and Dieter got more of a arc in terms of their relationship or friendship than I would say Scott and Maria did
Yep.
in this film, because I think they used the Scott and Maria relationship that they had as, I think Chris Duckman um, put this perfectly. Zack Snyder chose shock and awe more than the actual connection between the characters, because throughout this entire film, I thought they were just like best friends. And then once we got into the vault and Maria started talking about how she felt, as soon as Dave Batista's face came up, the way Zach positioned the camera, I'm like, she's gonna die.
Oh
5 seconds later,
god,
she gets her
holy
neck snapped.
shit, that like
Dude, I went like I saw it coming, but I was like,
yeah,
oh
no,
shit.
that was like the one where I was like, okay, I think, of course, like I knew they were all disposable before, but I think that was the one where I was like, fuck, like they're just all gonna die. And
I thought she was gonna die later.
it
That's
was
what I thought
it
it was.
was like, I do agree with like with what you said, that I guess Chris said. It's like I feel like with that portion of it, he did try to choose shock over emotion, because I like in that moment I was like, oh, like they're gonna go off and like like probably die together like later on the thing. And then she just
Yeah,
gets
that's what
her
I was thinking.
neck just completely turned around. And that's another thing too with this movie, is like the makeup and the VFX were actually like phenomenal. because like
Yeah.
he he flipped her neck around and it stayed flipped around and you could see it like
R
stayed flipped around and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god. I was like, holy shit.
And dude, it was nuts. And Dave Batista
Yep.
killed it again with his reaction, bro. You really felt for the guy, and this is when he gave us the best kill of all time. He couldn't shoot the zombie, he couldn't stab the zombie. He fucking WWE'd it
Yeah.
into a wall and just snapped it in
When-
half.
yep.
I thought, dude, I did not expect that coming. I literally gasped in the theater. Yet there was only like 5 or 6 people other than me. But dude, I went like,
Yeah.
holy fuck. Like, even from not even the kill aspect, just some of the things they do within this film alone. Like I said, with that entire fight choreography was almost chef's kiss, I want to say, because the way Zach uses body movement within this film, particularly within the zombies, is something else that really stands out to me, at least, because I knew when they were talking about the whole concept and synopsis of this before we even really knew too much about the film. Zach made it aware that he was having different classes of zombies, the basic George A. Romero brainless slow zombies, and then they kind of go as they go up in the hierarchy they get more
Mhm.
intelligent. And I wasn't sure how I'd feel about, I guess you can say, a superior zombie that's almost human like at that point. But I think Zach pulled it off really well in this, to the point where I still believe that they were zombies. And I felt like that was the biggest thing. I was afraid that it would take me out of the whole zombie aspect, because I feel like you can only take a zombie and make them be a zombie only to a certain
Mhm.
extent. And I was afraid they would just make them a little bit more humanoid. But between their actions throughout all different types of the zombies, like in particularly the queen, dude, she had some freaky
Yep.
fucking movements along with the great makeup effects in this movie. But I want to get some of your opinions on the zombies in this. How'd you
No,
feel
yeah,
for
and
them?
one more thing, like to go back on what you said on the first, it's like that whole
Yeah,
to go back on like the use of like still cam into handheld, like that's something to where like I don't know where Zack Snyder picked it up because he definitely didn't pick it up doing any of the Justice Leagues, but that's something that like
nah,
I like really enjoyed, and I really wouldn't have expected from Zack Snyder's first time being a DP on a project. And so I think that like at least for me shows a lot of promise for future projects if he really knows what he wants and he can get those kind of shots he wants out of it. And I do agree, the blur effect was kind of weird at times, and I think there's were times where it was like really overdone.
it
Yeah,
was just
and
unnecessary.
I remember times where it's like the blur effect was so much you could barely see what was on the screen. Um, but yeah, going back to the zombies, man, I did think the zombies were really cool. I thought my favorite of like the zombies movements was probably actually the tiger, because the tiger moved and looked, especially when it was killing God, what's his name, when it was killing Martin. Yeah, when it was
Martin.
killing Martin, it like
Yeah.
it moved and looked like a tiger, and that whole time that they that makeup, how it like, it like when the tiger like sliced his face, how it like actually looked like he was getting ripped apart, just looked so good, and just the whole movements of like the zombie tiger and everything. But I do agree that like I was worried when like I knew that they were gonna do like quote unquote alpha zombies. I thought they were gonna get more into like the
Yeah.
World War Z, where they're still just as mindless as the regular zombies. They're just faster and stronger. I do think he had a good mix, because I think once you start getting too smart when it comes to the zombies, that's when you start getting
Yeah.
to the like yeah,
The
it's
humanoid
like, are these
type
like even
stuff.
zombies anymore? But I do think there was a good mix of each, and yeah, I think like all the zombies, even the lower level ones were fine, and then the upper level ones like really did kind of move and look really like good, and it just goes back to the VFX. I think the VFX and the makeup were just phenomenal in this. I thought all of them looked like zombies, they moved like zombies, they they killed like zombies, and I thought like
Yeah.
it really worked.
No, honestly, I couldn't agree more. And the I like the way Zach shot the I forgot the name of the king zombie, but the king zombie, the way they introduce that character is super fucking
Hmm.
creepy, dude. Because for people, obviously, spoiler review, you guys know he's just standing on top of the Statue of Liberty and he's just in a silhouette too. You don't really see his face or body, you just see his figure looking over the mercenaries as they're trying to make their way through Las Vegas to make sure that they're not trying to go past the rules that they kind of just set up before for us. And I kind of like that. And then we follow him into Mount Olympus Hotel. And man, if this didn't scream Dawn of the Dead to me, I was literally busting out laughing because this is such a Dawn of the Dead thing when the king zombie goes up to the queen zombie and kind of confirms that zombies can impregnate each other, which I drop my jaw because I don't know, Jacob, if you know, in Dawn of the Dead, there's a pregnant woman in that movie that gets
Mm,
infected and gives birth to a zombie
interesting.
baby.
Yeah.
So the fact that he kind of made an homage to Dawn of the Dead in this, I thought was super classy. And it worked really well because it just showed you, like, man, these zombies are so advanced and so deadly, but at the same time, they're still zombies. So you're afraid of what they can do, but you're also afraid of what they can't do because you don't know what
Hmm.
they can't do because they're so highly intelligent. And the king zombie just threatening is all
Yeah.
ball sacks, dude.
Yeah.
He's like a metahuman on top of a zombie on top of Zod, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. But yeah,
No, I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna agree. You know, I thought that was, of course, like that's something I didn't know, but that would be cool, like to go back and see Dawn of the Dead and see. Um, but yeah, I thought it was really interesting how they kind of did that whole Mount Olympus, and I thought the fact that like they took sacrifices in to continue to make like more alpha zombies, I thought that was really interesting. I was kind of hoping that the was it Bart? Was that the dude that was the cop? Yeah, Bert.
Yeah,
I
Bert.
kind of was
Yeah.
hoping that he had a little bit better kill. I think he just kind of died pretty quickly.
For the
Yeah.
build-up at least,
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I think that was really cool. And it like really, of course, like nothing came from it because they all got nuked at the end. But I was really like thinking, I was like, oh, like, is this going to be the setup for the sequel? Which I'm sure we'll get into later about the actual setup for the sequel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was cool that they like figured out a way to do it. Whether it be through sexual actions, whether it be they were pregnant before, whatever happens. I thought that was really interesting the way that they built up that not only is this virus like something that they can put into other people, but it's something that they can like, yeah, and like
Conceive with.
repopulate with their own kind of beings. And I thought the whole Mount Olympus thing was really cool. And I also think like with the Mount Olympus, I think that's one of the things that like in a different movie, I think that's one of those things that I really don't like about it. But I think because this movie has enough like humor and enough like off the walls action, I can just like overlook kind of the absurdities of like the fact that like she flew off on the helicopter and then came back 5 seconds later only for him to randomly jump and land in the helicopter and like stuff like that where I'm just like where I'm like, oh, like that's kind of like dumb in retrospect, but like in the moment I was like, holy shit. Like I was like, how's he gonna
Yeah.
do it? And I think that's one of the things that like comedy really lends itself to a heist movie really well. There's I don't want to take their words, but there's a podcast I listen to, the Next Best Picture podcast. Not that one. Sorry, that's a great podcast. But I was talking about Lights Camera Barstool, and they said that like comedy lends its way to heist films so much better than almost any other genre, because within the comedy they can you can kind of look over some of the more absurd aspects of what the heist actually is. And I think, with this one, it's like, yeah, like the heist was dumb and the whole like concept of going in there was dumb to an extent, but you kind of knew that there would be a like guy in a suit that was there for something else, and you kind of knew that there was the whole like, we're going to take this and try to weaponize it and make even more money off of it. Like you knew that was coming, but because it was so
Yeah.
funny and because it was like the action was so cool, and like going back to what I said in the beginning, like the kills were just so cool. I mean, even at the very end when Dave Bautista shot the dude in the face and his face literally just ripped in half. Yeah, it
Ripped in
was
half.
like
Oh.
a lot of these um were just so like neat, and they looked so good that I could overlook a lot of those like other factors of it because it just was that fun of a movie watching it.
Honestly, I ultimately like agree with you on that because there is one, I guess you could say, problem that I had with the zombies in this film is it felt really advanced for them and the mercenaries to kind of commute and make a sacrifice to make sure they have safe passage and not really have to worry about them for I would say at least 75% of this film. I think it drew the tension back a little bit for me, especially when it comes to zombies. I feel like because you need to be more stealthy. I mean, they
Mhm.
literally go into an area that they have to be more stealthy, but once they break that, they just go balls deep on just shooting out tank bullets out of those guns for some
Oh
reason.
my
But
god.
other than that, it's just like as soon as they started shooting, I was not worried that other zombies that weren't in that building were going to start coming after them because of that pact. And because of that, it just came into a pattern of something happens, downtime. Something happens, downtime. When I feel like if we were ever really in this situation, especially in a zombie infested Las Vegas of all places, you would kind of need like nonstop action. You feel like you're safe for a second, then something happens, but then you're actually safe for like maybe one time during the whole movie to give you more of that kinetic feeling. But other than that, like you said, there's so much to really enjoy coming out of the zombies and the humor of the characters on top of how they deal with the zombies to help me overlook it ultimately at the end of the day. And I'm glad you brought up the comedy right now because a big thing or a big comedian in this film is Tig Notaro, who plays Marina Peters in the film. Little backstory: who was the actor that was supposed to play the previous role? I forgot his name.
I've no idea.
Okay, anyway, there was an actor that was supposed to play a different person, but still the helicopter flyer for them. But some accusations came out. They cut him out of this film, and Tig Notaro did all of her scenes on a green screen after
Oh,
production
um
finished during pandemic. Oh,
yeah,
Christy
I was
Elliott,
about to
right?
say it. I was about to say,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really really glad they
As it
pulled
hits
that
you, it hit
out.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christy Elliott. You obviously know what happened with him. We don't have to get into it, but yeah. So she filmed over him on green screen during the pandemic after production had wrapped, and I think that was. I don't want to say the scariest thing going into this movie, but more of a curiosity with how it would go. And I'll be honest, it was hit or miss for me. I felt like some moments were really good, like specifically when they were all grouped up and she was talking and interacting with them. I felt like they did that really well. But when it came to filming her individually, away from all the characters, when she was saying her quips or doing some actions like shooting zombies on the side, it felt weird. I felt like no one reacted to her or something like that. Like they were kind of oblivious to her as a character,
Mhm.
as a person within that scene. I didn't feel it all the time. Like I said, I felt it. I didn't feel it when they were kind of grouped up. but when they filmed her individually saying the quotes, with the way Dave Batista acted towards it, just it felt off to me. I don't know if it was just me. That's why I'm kind of glad me and you were talking about this, because I don't know if you felt the same way or if it kind of didn't even bother you, because I'll admit, for what they did, it was fan fucking tastic, and I give them a lot of credit, and I'm not trying to like undo that achievement. But yeah, what were your thoughts
No,
about
yeah,
when
I
they did
completely
it?
agree, and I think a lot of the scenes that a lot of the scenes that Tig Notaro was in, like it really worked, and it's one of those things. Like I knew going into the movie uh, that Tig had been replaced, but I didn't like remember it during the movie, and I think that's one of the big things that like really kind of helped the film, at least in that aspect of it, because it did feel like super naturalistic, and it felt like Tig was always supposed to be there. And I really liked a lot of the lines. I don't know if they switched the lines for Notaro or what, but I thought that it was a very very funny kind of thing. I loved that, like you know Notaro got a lot where I don't feel like they could have. But I really did. I loved everything that was brought to the role. But going back to like you talked about the guns and everything, I think that's one of like the most kind of absurd thing for me. It seemed like
Dude, they all sound like fucking like
yeah,
cannons.
they all sounded like cannons, but like they all had like Call of Duty extended mags. I know um
Yeah,
Ella Purnell, when she was like standing in the hallway, which by the way, everything was a headshot. Every shot taken was
dude, they
was
do
an
not
was a headshot.
miss.
It like a lot of this movie, and I think that's might be one of the reasons. Like I really did like it. A lot of this movie felt like Call of Duty Nazi Zombies. Like it felt like they picked up the like instant kill, and then they grabbed the nuke and all that kind of stuff. But like
Yeah, dude.
because everything they did was just like instant kill, instant kill, instant kill. And then I'm Ella Purnell, when she was standing in the hallway, I swear she had 30 bullets in that one pistol clip. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, when is this going to run out? Of course, it wasn't going to run out until the king walked up. But it was like,
Yeah.
for me, it was like, when is this going to run out? And I think, like, again, like, those are like the kind of absurd types of things that were really able to work in this film because the film allowed itself to go to that lengths. If this was a film that kind of took itself more seriously, or if like the
Yeah.
comedy wasn't as good, or if it like if let's say like if a studio would have stepped in and pulled some parts to get it to a certain length, or like done this or that, like I could definitely see this being a movie where it like some of those things like really bothered me, but it just didn't, and it never really felt like something that I was too worried about. Like it's something that I noted when watching it. I was like, "Oh my god, when is she going to run out of bullets?" But I was never like, "Jesus, like how is she shooting so many bullets?" Like it just all
Yeah.
kind of worked in that kind of thing just cuz it was like that fun of a movie.
Yeah, I definitely think it adds to the energy of the film, if I would like have to
Mhm.
pinpoint something, because you can even see from the movement of the zombies, like they're the super fast ones, their movements are super kinetic and energetic with the way the camera follows them too. Like the camera follows their speed. So when, for example, when we see Lily die at the end from the king throwing the spear into
Mhm.
her chest, bro, that was a knee jerk reaction, and I barely saw him kick it and throw it. That's how
Yeah.
fast he was. And I think that adds on to the way that they were shooting the bullets, using their guns. And another good example is Dave Bautista and Lily and the character Mikey. Yeah, Mikey, when they kind of escaped the bunker and they were in the casino trying to go for the roof.
Oh,
Dude, bro,
Goose.
I swear to God, this is
Yeah.
the coolest Dave Batista's ever been. He's jumping on fucking poker tables. And dude, I shit you not, the way he was just like shooting the gun, it just
Mhm.
flowed. Like it didn't seem like it should flow just due to natural physics, but the way that everything was filmed compared to the entire film itself, it felt energetic and flowed nicely to the point where it kept you involved, I felt like. And when Dave Batista was jumping on the tables and going from place to place, I don't remember if it was like a whole long shot or just a few cuts in between, but he goes from table to table, point, jumps off, tumbles down, shoots a zombie jumping on top of him, gets up, and starts like bang, bang, as you said, headshot,
Mhm.
headshot, headshot. Just super kinetic, flowing energy that adds to the enjoyment of the action when it does happen in
Yeah,
this
I
film.
completely agree, and I think like, and that's again like going back to like this movie just is it's so absurd in the fact of like he none of that was necessary in reality. He didn't have to do any of that. He could have just taken a few shots and run off. um but it was just one of those things where just like you were in such awe of like all the different ways he was killing the zombies, how he was killing the zombies. I mean, just like you said, the jumping over the tables and like diving over stuff, and like of course Dave Bautista's a massive dude, and it just looked,
Bro, he also
oh my
bro, you
god,
saw the way he
yes.
flipped that one too?
the
Like, bro, that was
the
superhuman.
the
I'm
it was
sorry.
the blackjack
That
table.
was
That's what I
superhuman,
thought too.
bro.
He flipped it over and pushed it, and
Flung it,
it
dude.
ran into the thing. And that's
Flung it.
at that point I was like, oh wait, maybe he does have like a little bit. I
Yeah,
honestly
right?
though at that point I was like, okay, is he gonna end up being like a like zombie kind of human hybrid or something? Like I really did think because it was that like insane that he just threw that table, and I was like,
Oh
oh
my
my
god.
god. And
Bro.
no, I mean, like, I agree, like, a lot of that stuff, and then, going back to, like, that scene, that's another thing, like, these characters had such little backstories, but, like, you learn so much about them through the action and through the story itself that, like, even when Goose died, I was like, "Oh my god," like, Goose was, like, cool, like, I liked him, and, just like one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like I don't know, like that's the thing about this movie is like Zack Snyder, like he really did it's full of tropes. It's full of like you know some just awful dialogue, and it's full of dialogue that doesn't matter. But it's like the one thing that like he really got down, and it's the one thing that like I've actually like enjoyed from a lot of his stuff is he really tries to get like emotion from a lot of his works. If the direction or if like the studio allows it, like who knows if whatever. But I think in this movie, like he was able to get that kind of emotion, and it was like scenes like that with Goose, where it was like damn, like like that's Goose. Like I was hoping that he would have made it out, and it's like the scene again, going back to the scene with Dieter, and it was like oh like Dieter was just like just in Dieter alone, going from a guy who like was scared as hell to even like hold a gun, didn't like, couldn't even hold a knife, to being like the guy to save Vanderho and like push him into the thing and sacrifice himself to like the massive king. It was just like little stuff like that really like developed these characters in this small amount of time that I really like appreciated from Zack Snyder that I don't think I've ever appreciated from him before.
No, yeah, definitely Zack Snyder knows how to get like that emotion from whatever film it is. So I always give him credit for that, no matter like what the script is calling for. He knows how to get those raw emotions from people. And something that he did in this film that honestly I was not expecting, to go back a little bit to the moment of them having to sneak around all those zombies that are like hibernating. Dude,
Mhm,
when I tell you I was gripping my bottle, that shit was mad
mhm,
suspenseful. And I was not expecting that from a film that just looked like a shoot 'em up zombies game. And I think Zach filmed this perfectly. He did a fantastic job at following Chambers and Martin's like kind of rivalry, and Martin kind of fucking
mhm.
her over at the end by throwing the glow stick to the side to lead her off the path. Now, I questioned, did she really believe they all went on their knees under
Yeah.
these zombies that led nowhere? I'll
And also
question
the
that,
fact that, like,
but
and also the
everything,
fact
yeah,
that, like, she wasn't that far behind everyone else. Like like,
nah,
she would have
she
been able to at
wasn't.
least, and they all had their flashlights turned on. So, like, you still would have seen, like, far enough to where you could have, like, noticed which direction they had gone.
No, yeah, and I do when I tell you watching her, like, kind of dodge those fingers that are,
Mhm.
like, twitching, I'm like, "Oh, fuck, dude. When is she gonna get caught?" Because you know she's gonna get caught. It's just a matter of when. And once the dominoes started falling, you figured out what was really gonna happen when things kind of fell over. And, dude, this was a great
Mhm.
action scene. I thought Samantha Wynn, who played Chambers, did a great job when it came to the stunts, or at least that's who I think it was because she looked like her, so it might have been her. But if it was the stunt person, they did a great job. And this goes back to the way Zach
Mhm.
films this. He went back to handheld. He went back to that chaotic feeling because this woman is stuck in a warehouse of hibernating zombies, dude. Like, what's not to be afraid of? And they kind of do, or Zach kind of does like that video game thing. I don't know if you noticed it. As she was making her way through the zombies, she kind of went down a narrow path, and the zombies kind of became separated by utensils where, and it seemed like a video game of someone going to a boss but having to
Yep.
defeat a few zombies in her way, in your way, and you have like this massive crowd of people around you, or monsters. I'm like, wow, dude, this feels like such a video game. And it really added to my enjoyment because Zach knew when to take this film seriously and suspensefully, but also knew when to play the jokes. Just like Tig Notaro was pretty much the joke
Mhm.
machine in this. Whenever she was on screen, joke, 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 joke. Even when she was around nobody and trying to fix a
Mhm.
plane, joke. And I think that blends perfectly with this whole suspenseful scene. And honestly, she kicked much more ass than I anticipated her to, because she was an absolute badass from shooting their heads to, dude, the flow of her movement of not killing the zombies directly right away, but using them as a shield and using the force to make them not bite her, but also use them as a shield and push all the zombies away. I think the choreography was really good in that scene. The only thing that drew it back was they had to do the overly dramatic death for her. I wish they kind of made her death where Martin cut her off and you see her going on that last stand thing, and then, oh look, she's still alive, but joke, they kill her by blowing her up
Mhm.
last second. They obviously did that for the shock effect, but I thought it was a little bit more impactful for me to kind of have her be fucked over like that. Like,
That
dude, man, she kicked all this ass and she got like fucked over, but oh look, she found a way
that
out.
is one thing where I was like, she's there and she's dying and she's yelling, like, "Run!" Like, just yell, like, "Martin did this," or, like, do something, like, to, like, let everyone know that this this dude is the reason that she's dying. But, yeah, I agree, like, that is one of those things where, like, I think if it didn't look as good as it did, and if it wasn't like as funny as it was, if it wasn't like
Would have
as
had more problems.
like you said, impactful as it was, I think like it would have felt so overdone because it was like, she was fighting in the chamber and then she was fighting in like the kitchen area and then she was like pushed up against the window. Then she jumped through the window. She still was killing like everyone and like she still like could have made her way out.
Yeah, like I don't know why she didn't get up either. She could have
Yeah,
gotten up.
and,
That's the
I
thing.
think, like, that's one of those things where, like, it did feel like it was maybe going, like, overboard a little bit, but I was like, and that's one thing, like, this movie was almost like a snowflake, like, different snowflakes in a sense that it was like every, every, final kill or, like, every, finishing move or whatever always looked different. Like, I never remembered seeing, like, and up close, of course, like if a zombie gets shot in the head, he gets shot in the head. But I never like I don't remember seeing like an up close finishing death that looked the same. And I think like that's one thing is because like every time you looked at her, it wasn't just like headshot, 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 headshot. It was like headshot, headshot. Like you said, grab a zombie, push it into another one, use as a shield, stab it in the face, headshot, rip its head off, like stuff like that. Like it always was new and it was always something different to look at. And I think just doing that, like you said, with the choreography was like so made it so much more pleasing to look at. It made it something to where I was like, oh, like I don't mind that this fight scene's going on probably too long because I'm enjoying all of the kills leading up to like her inevitable death.
No, yeah. It definitely just added to the kinetic chaos of the movie that really just made it more rewatchable. And I'm not gonna lie, I do have a few gripes with this movie. It's obviously not a perfect film in like any regard for like anything in that matter. And I think I actually summed it up decently well in a tweet earlier when it comes to how people should view Zack Snyder's zombie films when you're looking at Dawn of the Dead compared to the Army of the Dead. Because for me, Army and Dawn are his two best films that he has made to date, for me at least. And what I said was like, if you want to go for something scary with a good plot, everything that consistently makes sense and good payoffs for certain characters, deaths that are way more emotional, I would definitely prefer over Army if I want the story Dawn of the Dead, because that was written by James Gunn and not Zack
Mhm.
Snyder in this case. So I feel like James Gunn just had a more consistent script overall. But if you're trying to lay back, relax, have a good time, get a decently good story and some really good acting with some chaotic and kinetic fun and laughter, Army of the Dead all the way, and I think that's why these are two of my favorite films from my man Zack
Yeah, no,
Snyder.
I completely agree. Of course, like I said earlier, I've never seen Dawn of the Dead, but I think it's like you said, like
Yeah,
if you're wanting to like, and again, like the 2.5 hours flew by, at least for me. Like it never felt like there was too many like dull moments. It never felt like something that where I was like, bored watching it. Like I was always entertained. And I think, you bring up James Gunn. I think like if Zack Snyder used this film to kind of like
so James Gunn was actually asked to write this movie, but he wanted to stay committed to the
see,
Suicide
that's what I was
Squad.
gonna say. Like, I feel like if Zack Snyder like continues down this path, and I'm hoping Netflix knows what they got with this, and I hope
I
that
think
they
they
like
will.
give Zack Snyder full reins to do multiple, not even just of the Dead movies, but like multiple movies in general. Because he's not with Warner Brothers anymore. Fucking hates Warner Brothers. I think like this could be like a big thing for Netflix to really like get them back up on top. Because Zack Snyder's got such a massive fan base and everything, but I really think like this had a lot of the same feelings of a James Gunn movie, of a Guardians of the Galaxy. Like this is what I feel, of course, Suicide Squad's going to have better writing. It's going to have probably better action sequences. It's going to look a little better. But like this felt like Zack Snyder could take those steps to be a James Gunn type of filmmaker if he wanted to, with the comedy, with the action, with the kind of emotional aspects of it. And I think I think it's one thing that like you're never, too old to learn something new when you're a director. And I think like in Snyder's
Yeah.
case, if he really wants to like have a much more, I wouldn't say meaningful career, but if he wants to have like a much more like prolific career,
He needs to work on
yeah.
his writing. That's what it is. I think at the end of the day, he's got the directing down. He's obviously got the cinematography down. He's got the look down. Bro, like literally, you don't even have to tell someone this is a Zack Snyder film. If anyone knows what his vision looks like or his creative mind looks like, just looking at a film, this movie screams Zack Snyder, and that's like where my problems come in with this movie. And my biggest gripe when it comes to the script is actually in the opening sequence, ironically enough, even though I was praising it before, because during the opening sequence we kind of get little background info on some of the characters that are in the mercenary group, not
Hmm.
all of them, specifically
Yeah.
like Scott, Maria, Vandero, those characters. But there's also another mercenary character there with It's a woman. We don't know. We don't really learn her name. We don't learn anything about her. But they do a super emotional moment where you obviously get during the opening credit scene that they're looking for someone, and I kind of got that it was like the woman's
I
daughter or something.
I was just
And
gonna say I hated that
yeah,
like the daughter ran back and that she ended up dying with the daughter. I was like,
they didn't do anything. Like, I don't know who those two
mhm.
characters were, and yeah, it was emotional, but what impact did it have overall? Because it clearly didn't impact Scott or Maria at the end of the day, because they don't even
Mhm.
mention the person again, and it just seems so
Yeah,
shoehorned
no, I
in for
completely
me.
agree. I think they definitely should have at least mentioned her. Like
Yeah,
when Batista's like brought up, like mention that maybe that was the point where they stopped doing it and they all went their separate ways. And when Batista was
that's what I
brought
thought
up,
it was
it's like,
gonna be, and then they
and
never
I
said
also
anything.
it again, like I just said it, I hated that the daughter ran back to her mom and then they both died because like that's one thing where like if
I'm pretty sure the mom pulled her back. By the
no,
way, I don't even think
the
the
daughter
daughter ran.
ran back and then the mom like held on to her.
Okay, I thought the mother just
Cracker
went with
said,
her. Okay,
if I'm going
just
out,
die
you're
with
going
me.
with me."
You're going
Jeez.
to hell with me.
No, I think that would have been something like so cool to like. They could have still had like they could have still had the Scott and Kate kind of story. But I think that could have been another like really emotional aspect of it where like you kind
Yeah,
of take Kate out of it and like um Kate's need for like to go find because even with Kate, like I understand that she was a volunteer. I understand that she was, you know, tasked to help this mom.
she didn't think about
But
anything
yeah,
though.
or Gita. I understand like she was tasked to like help Gita and help like that, but I think it would have been so much more impactful if if the daughter at the beginning had run back, like had run off and been with like the people, and then maybe Scott takes her in and raises her, and then she's the one who's like, I lost my mom to the zombies,
That's where I thought it was
and
going.
I have to go like save this mom because I understand what it's like to lose a mom to the zombies. I think that would have been like just a little thing that would have been so much more impactful. But I think that's another like kind of shock factor moment that you're like, oh shit, like they just killed like
Exactly.
that kid. Where I think, like you said, like in a writing aspect, I think with maybe a little bit better writer, they kind of understand the different storylines they can take if that kid doesn't die. I mean, there's so much else you can do with it.
Yeah. And honestly, that's where I thought they were gonna go with that. And then they cut to Scott just killing the wife, and Kate's the same age as she would be that we saw her in the trailers. And you're like, okay, hopefully they explain this eventually. 2 hours later, and they don't explain shit. And that kind of goes with the Chambers character and Mikey, because when they're going through the montage of recruiting the mercenaries, I really like what they did with Mikey being a zombies killing YouTuber, which I thought was ironically
Hmm.
hilarious, by the way. And you don't you get a sense that they have like this close relationship, but nothing else. They don't even say whether they're friends or sisters. They don't even acknowledge it. So eventually when Chambers dies and Mikey makes the choice to blow her up, yeah, it's an emotional moment. But if they added to the fact by saying that she was my sister when both our parents died at a young age, something as simple as a line like that could add the just emotional
Hmm.
depth to that one scene for a rather bland character. I would say Chambers is like, yeah, she's a badass and she's like a grunty person, but other than that, you don't know shit about her or Mikey. And that's really my problem where the writing comes in between the characters. Each individual character is written well. It's just the connective tissue in between each character that I think is
Yeah, no,
having
I
a
agree.
problem.
I think you kind of hit it right on the head. Where it was like each character themselves has like other than like Chambers, who was like written off really quickly, and the mom and the daughter and all that. But I think like most of the characters have like enough. Even Lily. like you understood like she had gone back and forth a ton of times, she'd lost a lot of people, and she like
Yeah.
it's not that she wanted to lose those people, it's just like she was looking out for herself over, you know, other people, which is completely like justified in this situation. And so
Reasonable.
it's just one of those things where like I feel like, you know, singularly, they had like fairly decent backstories and fairly decent stories in general. But like you said, like that connective tissue. I mean, going back to Scott and Maria, like by the right before she died, you could tell like there was like a more of like a relationship aspect. And when Maria like turned around and was like, I was hoping that there was a future for us. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like what
It was like
future? I was like, well,
180
I
almost.
mean, 180 is pretty literal in that sense, but
Yeah,
but
pretty literal in that
but
sense. Pretty.
but yeah, I was like where did this come from? Like something little like even if, you know, Kate would have said like, oh, like you were with Maria, and then but because Kate didn't have any like any ill will towards Maria from what I remember, and so it's like it's one of those things
Nope.
that like just those little like one line could have changed so much
Yeah.
to like make it more like connective, like you said.
Yeah, it's just like we know like how these characters kind of feel and perceive each other, but we don't know the reason why. And for example, Vanderhor, something that truly bothered me with his character is they hype up him having this chainsaw.
Oh my
He
god,
never
yeah, I
uses
know
it.
it's
It is just a plot device to escape them from being trapped for Martin, and he doesn't even use
and
it
you know,
himself.
if you remember what he said he told the cop, yep,
No
he
one
said
else
no one
touches my
touches my
yeah.
chainsaw, which the kills with the chainsaw at the beginning were so funny. But yeah, it's like once you actually like get into it, he never really like used the chainsaw. I forgot that the chainsaw was even there, first off. And then like
Exactly.
second off, I was wondering, I was like, who the hell is carrying this chainsaw around like to get where it needs to go? But like I completely
Yeah.
agree. It's just, yeah, it's just like little things like that, like things that they almost like forgot about became like important later on, to where like I just completely like, and it's just it's like you said, like I completely just forgot about the chainsaw in general. And then when she used it to like cut through the wall, I was like, oh, why is she using this instead of, you know, the guy who said don't touch my chainsaw?
Yeah, it literally made absolutely no sense. And I think that's the biggest thing is I can honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I can nitpick the shit out of like the script in this movie. Like from even saying with the character of Burt Cummings, the by Theo Rosie, the bad cop, is bro. He there's no hesitation. He just takes 20 grand, and they do this all in broad daylight on a I would assume a really heavily secured area. They kind of just seem they walk in and out of for this place that keeps these people almost held
Hmm.
hostage at most. Like, and they walk in and out, they're making deals with the cop right there out in the public. Bro, they literally take out their arsenal. They start punching each other. Like, bro, they do everything that would more than likely get themselves caught. And it's it's just hard to like grasp a lot of that sometimes. Like I know what you guys are trying to go for, but like add some real ability to the real life sections. Like when it comes to zombies and all that, I don't give a shit what you do. But like when it comes to like trying to break into this heavily secured area, they pretty much
Hmm.
walk in. That's literally
Yeah,
what they do.
they walk in, they give a sacrifice, and they just kind of walk wherever they like. Which you know, that's another thing. Like the sacrifice was something that like in maybe a worse movie, I'm like, oh, like that's so stupid that like they just gave a sacrifice and they were allowed to like walk wherever they wanted. But like because I feel
Yeah.
like they used it at least like well enough, like the sacrifice was something that I could like maybe look over a little bit. um I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you already answered it. I want to know what's your favorite kill of the whole thing.
Damn, my favorite kill, man. I'm gonna be honest. I think it might be Maria, just because of the shock. value alone, dude. Like we were saying before, like the connective tissue between that emotional scene made no sense, and then the way Zach framed the shots, it as soon as it clicked in my head, the elevator opened and snapped her neck.
Yeah, no,
What? I'm like, holy
I
shit! I'm like, I didn't expect them to snap her neck. I at least expected them to come up and like bite her neck, not just like 180 it and just stare Dave in
yeah,
the fucking eyes.
I completely agree that it was like I was like, oh, like they're gonna bite her neck, and then when I saw her just like facing back to the camera, I was like, what? I was like, holy shit.
Dude, it's just like, what the fuck? And I'll be honest, I kind of liked Lily's kill too a lot. Like I said, it was the rapid succession of it all. Like bro, it was so fast, and it showed you how lethal
Mhm.
the king was. Like he's not just a really smart zombie, but he's a superpowered zombie, motherfuckers. Like kicked that thing and just threw it through her chest. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why Lily didn't save herself. Like they all, like if Lily didn't do what she did, they all could have escaped, by the way, and the virus would not have gotten out at the end. Or it might have, since it came from Vanderho, but at least Scott wouldn't have died. Marianne wouldn't have died. Lily would have died. She should have just held the fucking headed hostage until they flew off, because it's obvious the king wasn't going to go after them and just blow her
Well,
brains out maybe
exactly.
far enough to where they
Or
get
just like
here.
fly up and then just drop her from like a higher, and it's like, okay, well, if he catches it, he catches it. Like I
Yeah,
completely agree. Like the and
like
that's
what are we
another
trying to
thing. Like
prove?
that could have been if you would have like harped down on like how like you could have easily like harped down on like Lily being like a really like fucked up person and being like how like messed up she was from leaving all those people back, and then had it be like a kind of redemptive arc for her of like, I'm gonna save these people, and for like all the people that I didn't save whenever I took them into the like Las Vegas or whatever. Like I think that would have been really cool if they would have written that in there. They just didn't. They kind of just killed her to end up killing her. But no, I think for me, I honestly think my favorite kill, and the one kill that I was like holy, like I just like actually jumped up out of my seat. Well, of course, like I was watching it on my couch. I wasn't lucky enough to see it in a theater, but the one kill that I like jumped up out of my seat, and the one kill that I, other than the blackjack table was just unreal for many reasons.
Dude, it was
But when
nuts.
the zombie stepped on that like pressure plate and got like smushed in the middle, that's the
Oh
one where like
yeah,
I was like, holy, like I didn't. That's one where I just didn't see. I thought there was going to be a third one. Um, I thought something was going to
I thought it was gonna be
happen. Yeah,
flamethrowers.
but I was like, I had no idea because that whole scene leading up to it was funny as fuck. Like already, like watching him like bring people
Yeah,
down. But just having him get like smashed and then having it like open up a little bit, it reminded me a lot. And I think that's where like the James Gunn type of aspect comes into it, because it reminded me a lot
yeah.
of when King Shark in the Suicide Squad trailer ripped the body apart, because you could see like the zombie's body like stay connected as it was being pulled apart, and then, of course like they had to pull all of the like guts and stuff like out of the middle. But I think that's, for me, I think that's probably my favorite one, where I was just like, what the fuck, like out of my seat jump.
Yeah, dude, it was such a funny one, especially when when they try to open it and teacher just asks Vanderho like, "Bro, can you help me? This is kind of fucking disgusting." Because, dude, the practical guts in that were
Hmm.
really cool. But speaking of Vanderho, I really want to get your opinions on the last 10 minutes of this movie, because that's where I draw the line. I must say, but I want to get your opinions
Yeah,
first.
I I knew it was going to come some. Honestly, I was kind of hoping that the virus was going to be in I was kind of hoping that the virus is going to be either in Scott or Kate, and that they were just going to be like, which it would have been like a cop out already, but I was hoping that they were going to be like the kind of people who could like withstand the virus a little bit. And so I just really wanted Dave Batista to come back for a sequel. But I do kind of think like it is weird that like Vanderho was kind of, yeah, well, it's weird that
Survived.
he, like, survived that long after being bitten first off, and
Yeah.
then it's weird that he looked into the, like, airplane.
And he didn't even know, by
Yeah,
the way,
and it's
either,
like, you
somehow.
would have felt, you know what? It could have been, I think that was the arm that, which this was insane
But
also.
also, where did he get bit? When did he get
I
bit? How
think
did he get bit?
I think this is the arm that the king, like, I thought he ripped the arm, like, completely off his body, but I think he just dislocated it, because he definitely, like, pulled it out of socket at least, and he might have bit it
Yeah.
there. I don't know, but it's just like, first off, he made it that long. Like, it was hours since he got on that plane. Didn't have anything wrong until he, like, sat down and started drinking
And
champagne, and then it's like,
you gotta think about the nuclear
yeah,
fallout
like,
too.
dude's got
Like,
radiation literally. I mean, he was in the center of it. Like, it's
yeah,
it's not like
like literally
it's not
makes
like he was just gonna
sense.
get up and, like, be fine. Like, it would have been more realistic if he started, like, growing a third eye or something. Um,
And I want to know like where that hole he came out of was, where it was, because it wasn't in the
no, yeah,
vault.
it was like a,
And for anyone listening, that's where he was last time, stuck in the vault because Dieter trapped him
you
in
know what
there
it
to
looked
protect
like?
him.
It looked like the cage that Martin, like, locked everyone in before she turned and started using the saw on the wall. Like, it looked like that, which, like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, how did he,
But then that X, how does he get out of
exactly,
the
and, like, how
vault?
does, 1, how does he get out of the vault? And 2, how does he, like,
Get bit and not realize it when all the zombies are dead, and two, he survives
yeah,
like a good day at least before he turns, which goes against every other kill. That's when someone turned into a zombie, it was almost
no,
instantaneous.
yeah, yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I get what they're doing, like, they're easily trying to set up a sequel. I don't know how, though, because if he does turn, he's definitely gonna bite everyone in there. I don't know a zombie that can fly a plane, so he's just gonna fly into the ground.
Bro, I said the same
And
thing. Like of all things you put him on an airplane, like you couldn't have done anything else. Like put him in a motel, but you want to put him like fucking 30,000 feet in the sky. And by the way, when he realized he was bit, they didn't take off yet, but at the rate this disease was taking him over, they'd be in the air at least halfway by the time he fully turned into a zombie.
well,
So
I think they had
the
already
whole
taken off because I think they he opened the champagne right when they got into the air. I think they were, because I think the final scene was them flying through the air. If I remember correctly.
yeah, it's I definitely can't. I gotta wait. Man, it's coming out on Netflix Friday night. I can't
Oh,
wait to
yeah,
watch it.
absolutely.
But dude, those last 10 minutes just just infuriated me, especially because Snyder did what he does best. He
Mhm.
teases films. He never makes a film needed to work by itself. Where this film works perfectly by itself until those last 10 minutes adds a cliffhanger. Like the entire last scene between Scott and Kate was such a great emotional scene to
Mhm.
end the movie on, especially in such a sad and dreary place for Kate. Not only did she just lose the pilot, not only did she just lose her father, but she also shot her father that was a zombie, and now she's stuck in the middle of the fucking
Yeah,
desert. Like that would have been such a nice ending, and it would have had enough of a cliffhanger that honestly I would have been like, I wonder what happens to her next without kind of being in your face like it did at the
no, I
end.
completely agree, and I think, like, and, I don't think film should use the, like, post-credit sequence all the time, but I think this is definitely one where, like, if you wanted to tease that, you could have easily teased that in a post-credit sequence, and, of course, like, I didn't make the movie. I've never made a movie or anything like that, but I think it would have been, like, really cool if instead of, like, showing all that, you kind of just, like, show a plane, like, flying over top, and then you, like, get everything kind of put back in, maybe in, like, a post-credit sequence. But I do agree, like, it would have been, in my opinion, much better if, like, Kate just killed her dad and is just kind of sitting there, and then the helicopter like flies back around, and then it just kind of ends on that, and then it's kind of like left up in the air, like what, he's still in the vault, like is he going to get out or something like that, like it felt too on the nose, and it's like you said, like it felt like a setup rather than, it felt like a
Wrapping up the
beginning, middle,
film.
end, beginning again. Yep.
Beginning. Yeah.
Whereas like
Yeah.
I think I can't remember if I said it, but I think I was talking to someone the other day about like, a lot of like franchise types of films now are usually left on cliffhangers like that. And I was like, for me, that's one reason why I liked Infinity War so much, is because like, Infinity War was left on a cliffhanger, sort of because of the
Yeah.
snap. But if you take the movie as a Thanos story, it had a beginning, middle, end. And for Thanos' storyline, which that's, Thanos was like the main character of the story. He was the one in the movie the most.
Yeah.
He was the one the movie was basically about. Like we want it to be about the superheroes, but if it was really Thanos' film, he had a beginning. He was getting the stones. Middle, he was still getting stones. Climax, and then an end where he finished his journey and did what he wanted to do. He sat in front of everything, and I think, it's doable where you can make multiple movies in a franchise. You can make multiple parts in a film. I mean, go back and look at Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part One. Like that film itself had a beginning, middle, end. It had an ending point where it ended with, Dobby's death, and it ended like in a like perfect part to end, where it's like this was kind of back to that beginning and middle, end, beginning again before the next film. And so I completely agree with that, where I feel like it could have been a complete movie and then it tried to restart itself back up for a next one.
And I think it's an odd choice to tease a sequel that one isn't even really confirmed whatsoever. Like, there's no talks about the sequel, but yet we have two prequels coming out. And one of them is an anime, and I think the other one's called Army of Thieves, and that follows Dieter's journey onto becoming like the Savecracker, which are I'm excited for, but like it just seems so weird to end this movie on an unconfirmed unknown project, especially when you have two prequels in the work before the film that we just
Mhm.
watched.
No, yeah, I agree. I feel like, this is something Zack Snyder does,
Yeah,
and I
I
I think
hate it.
like I don't like it either. Um, but but sorry, I don't like it either. But I think, Zack Snyder kind of manifests future movies for himself. Where like I would love if this ended up being like, let's take Cloverfield Paradox out of it. But I would love if this like ended up being like a Cloverfield type of franchise, where like each iteration of the movie was a different story within this universe, So it's like you had Dawn of the Dead, where it was
Yeah.
like you said, like it was within a single location. It was a lot like Night of the Living Dead, whatever. Army of the Dead, where it's, a comedy heist film, and then you can have like a different movie set in a different place or something like that. And like they all could have that kind of connective tissue, but it's all like solo films to an extent.
I I can see the like Army of the Dead movie franchise be like the Purge kind of, where let's just say Army of the Dead is the movie we just watched, but we can go back to when the very first zombies started taking over Vegas. So instead of having that 15-minute
Hmm.
um opening in the beginning, that entire 15-minute opening will just be stretched out to a movie, and we follow like a family trying to escape.
I think,
And
oh my
I think
gosh.
that could work
I,
in a sense like that.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just like
No, no, no,
thinking
yeah, it's all
about that,
good.
because like I'm a big believer in the
It's a
first and
cool
second
idea.
Purge movies. I thought the first Purge movie was a very good like
Same.
single area like horror thriller type of movie, and I think Purge Anarchy was like very good to build that kind of world, and I really enjoyed the first two, um especially the second one. I think the second one's probably the best of the entire franchise, and I think after the second one it just kind of got back into like Purge 3 was a lot like Purge 2, Purge 4 was a lot like Purge 2 again. Yeah.
Purge 3 and 2.
But I really like the difference between Purge 1 and 2, and I think that's definitely something that, like, thinking of it now, that's definitely something that could have been done
No,
here is,
yeah.
like, like, you have a family, like, trying to board up the walls and everything, and you make a, like, a single home thriller. It's a lot like, Dawn of the Dead, a lot like Night of the Living Dead, but, like, you make it about, one family itself and, like, all that kind of stuff that happens and, all that. I think, just thinking about that, like, makes it seem so cool of, like, going back to, like, building back to Army of the Dead at some point. I That just does seem, like, really cool to me.
No, yeah, and like you can even not only can you mess around with like timelines and perspectives, points of views, like within the Vegas setting alone, but each movie can have its own tone too, because it's such a dynamic
Mhm.
area to be in. Like Army of the Dead was this fun, energetic, just type of movie, and a lot of that was because of the cast. And I feel like if we did have a sequel, semi prequel film, whatever you would consider it, it could be more of a horror suspense because of the setting of what's going on with Vegas falling down with and having more serious characters come in and depart away from
Oh
more
my
like
god.
horror.
I'm thinking so much. Now I'm thinking since I said
Bro, now you know
Oh
why
my
I love
god,
zombie movies so much. They're so
since I
good.
said Cloverfield, now I'm thinking of like a Cloverfield movie where it's like a found footage, like going back to found footage just because it hasn't been done in years or hasn't been done well in years. Doing like a
Yeah.
found footage type movie of like the zombie apocalypse like starting and like a friend group, a family, whatever, has to like make their way through Las Vegas or something like that. Like thinking of like where this franchise could go is so fun to think of, but also on the other end of that, knowing it's not going to do that really sucks. And so, oh
Yeah.
god, because oh my god, I'm just like,
And that's kind of what pisses me off about these prequels coming out, especially about like Dieter. Like, dude, I love the character, but he's dead. Like, I think his background would be cool, but like, I don't want a whole show
mhm.
about it if it's not really gonna matter later down the
No,
line.
yeah, for sure. Like, and it would be so cool, and it would be so cool and so easy to do, like a found footage or like a kind of adventure trying to get through Las Vegas, and then have Dave Bautista, Omar Hardwick, like all of those people kind of make an appearance, being because they were like guys.
They
Yeah.
were they were there during events of, like, rescue missions and stuff, and you can kinda use that connective tissue to
Mhm.
interweave the stories, and, like, you could even do, like, a military version of this story where the military tries to go in and do something else, and it might be saving somebody, it might be, an escape from New York situation in Vegas, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much dynamic range with this universe that I'm kind of afraid they might not use it to its full extent, and kind of play it the safe route, like with the prequels
Yeah,
they're
I
trying to do.
completely agree. I think it would be I think it would be really interesting if they did that. I also think if they continue to do this type of like comedy action route, I think that could work. I'm worried that like Zack Snyder will go because like I know you said earlier, like you watch this, it's a Zack Snyder movie, but for me, like if you would have taken Zack Snyder's name completely off of it, I would have never known that this was a Zack Snyder. I mean, it was so bright and vibrant, which is why I kept saying it, but it's why like I got so much more of a James Gunn esque feel because it was so bright, it was so vibrant, like the colors like actually popped. I mean, even looking at the poster, like the poster looks so much
I
the
love it.
poster looks so much more
I want to
like
get it
in like bright than the black and
introduced.
white Justice League poster. And it's like I don't remember anything other than maybe like Guardians of Gahul or whatever, the owl like animated movie that Zack Snyder did. I don't
Yeah.
remember anything that had like no, actually, even in that movie, it was all during the night. So like I don't remember any Zack Snyder movie that was like actually took place for lengthy periods of time during the day and during like light. And it was cool to see like a Zack Snyder film like be captured in daylight and actually like use more natural light and use more like daylight than using dark like weird sort of like lighting and dark lighting and stuff like that. And so I don't know. I keep thinking of like the different ways this franchise could go, and
Yeah,
there really is, especially in a genre that seems like people are kind of tired of it. I mean, zombie movies have been like done and done and done again. I think it would be really cool if they started taking it in different types of genres, rather than keeping it the same thing. But um, I don't know. I'm I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's like I put in I think my review. I was like, this movie doesn't really like you're not going to watch this movie and like see anything game changing. You're not going to watch it like you said earlier and like watch like a masterpiece or a perfect movie. But I think like this film gets that fun factor down so well that I think you should just be able to enjoy it for what it is and for like the story it's trying to tell and just at least have fun with it, like for the most part.
no, yeah. Honestly, that like I said, my biggest complaints just come from the writing of this movie. And once I found out that Zach was the writer, I kind of assumed that's how it was gonna go. I like his style. I like the way he visualizes things and directs things. It's just he needs to like touch up his writing as well. And I feel like once he touches up his writing, he could be another
Mhm.
James Gunn. Uh
I
hopefully one day.
yeah, I
And
completely agree with what you said about his like visual style. I've like that's one thing like I've
he's
always
so
been adamant
unique.
about Zack Snyder. Before this movie, like I said, I very much like anti Zack Snyder. I did not enjoy. I mean, I don't like 300. I don't like Batman vs Superman. Man of Steel is fine. Man of Steel is I think a good movie.
Yeah.
I think it's impossibly hard to do a Superman movie in general. But I think like the one thing of Zack Snyder, I think Zack Snyder's like mind is so creative and there's so much going on in his head that I want to kind of see that on film. I just don't want him to be the one to tell it, if that makes sense. Like I want to see what's going on in his brain. I just want someone else to write it down.
You just don't want him to put
Yes,
it on the
exactly.
paper.
Like I would love if
No,
someone else like
I
wrote it down.
And I think you described the perfect example of why I do like Dawn of the Dead eventually a little bit more over this is because James Gunn had the writing even back in 2004, but he also had the creativity and the type of nuance that Zach had. Like they were kind of the same almost. And if you ever watch Dawn of the Dead, you'll really
I
see it.
will.
And honestly, if I had to like compare the style of this film, I would say it's a mix of Dawn of the Dead and 300. Like just from the blurry background of 300 I get from this and even in Dawn of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead has that very handheld suspenseful shaky cam going on when you're up and close with the zombies just like you do in this movie. So like I could rip out pieces of different movies that he puts in here, and I absolutely love that uh, film creator can do that with such a unique and diverse filmography, like we said before. But did we not touch anything that you wanted to like talk about? Or
No, I think we got it all. I don't think there's no. I don't. I think we touched it
yeah,
all.
dude,
I think we got everything that.
dude, I'm being honest. Like when I walked out of this film, I'm like, dude, I did not expect to have so much to talk about coming out of this. Like I was honestly kind of shocked. Um, but without further ado, I think we should just get into like our final rankings and wrap things up. Honestly, I love this film. You have to know what it is at the same time to truly appreciate it. It is a very Zack Snyder film, and he's got that fan base, he's got that loyalist community, but he's also got such a unique vision that might not also be for everybody at the same time. But I absolutely love the way he creates these zombie films and these universes. And without a doubt, I give this film an 8.5 out of 10. And the film really dragged me down by that script ultimately at the end of the day. And I do recommend this film. And honestly, I know this is coming out on Netflix in a few days, and I'm pretty sure it's still going to be in theaters and even grow to more theaters on Fridays once it comes out on Netflix. But you guys definitely have to see this on IMAX. I know I
Mhm.
definitely will, but what about you, Jacob? What are some of
So
your final
yeah, so
thoughts?
it's like it's like you said. I think you kind of really have to know what you're getting into when you're watching it. You're not getting into this watching. I mean, maybe there's going to be like makeup Oscars or visual effects or something like that, but you're not getting into like best Dave Bautista is not going to be nominated. It's not going to be like that kind of movie. It's not that like deep drama. Like there's no political like tellings. There's no like underlying story. It just is. It is what it is at face value, and it is a fun movie, and you kind of have to watch that like with that kind of mindset of like it's a lot like, and this is a little bit better than the Transformers sequels, but it's a lot like how I watch the Transformers movies, where it's like I watch those with the sole intent of enjoying myself and having fun and just seeing like crazy stuff on screen. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going. I do letter grades. If you didn't know, so I'm actually going a B plus, which out of
Yeah, that's where I'm at with letter grade too. So we're
Yep,
we're good on
exactly.
that.
I think it's a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. I still think it could have been a little bit better, and hopefully they do end up making sequels to where they make better movies like this. But I mean, it's like I said, I had a blast watching it. I had so much more fun than I thought I was going to have. I I think as of right now, it's the best thing Zack Snyder's done. I would love to actually go back and watch Dawn of the Dead and see the differences and see if that is something I enjoy a little bit better. But yeah, I think like fans of Zack Snyder should love it. Fans of the zombie genre should love it. Just fans of like entertaining movies in general should love it. And yeah, that's just kind of my final thoughts on it.
Yeah, this is without a doubt such a
Hmm.
popcorn film. I literally cannot wait for this film to come out on Netflix again on Friday, just so I can sit back, relax, and just enjoy the fuck out of this film, especially with the times we're in. It's nice to have that film to just kind of turn on and just get pure enjoyment, not really think about it, no political anything in it. It's trying to tell you a story while having fun, cracking jokes, and just being badass. But without further ado, Jacob, where can we find you, my man?
You can find me on Twitter at tberry57. You can find me online at musiccitydrivein.com. I have a review of myself, or not a review of myself, a review of this movie myself up right now. Um, and yeah, I'm about to go. I think tomorrow I'm going to go see Spiral and write a review
Ooh,
of Spiral,
nice.
which is going to be my first movie in all of the Saw franchise. So look out for that. That's going to be very,
Whoa.
very interesting. Yeah, I just now today found out that Lee Winnell and James Wan did the first.
What?
Just
You
now
just
today
found that
found that
out?
out, and like I've been
No
so
way.
against watching Saw my entire life. And when I found out James Wan did it, it reminded me. So, okay, so little backstory. The first horror movie I ever like saw was when I was 16. I was literally dragged to the theater to go see the Conjuring movie, and I ended up like loving it. And that's where I really got into like James Wan as like a horror director. And of course, like I really got into horror movies. I mean, I have horror movies as like some of my favorite movies of all time now. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
like that's what really got me into the genre itself. So like hearing James Wan was a part of Saw, I was like, fuck, like now I really have to go see it. But yeah, I'm gonna watch Spiral without seeing any Saw, so I don't know if I'm gonna be completely lost or if I'm gonna understand anything of it. So yeah, so look out for that.
You definitely will not
Okay.
be lost. You definitely will not be lost. I can guarantee you that. But thank you so much, Jacob, for coming on and talking about the Army of the Dead, dude. I was saying this before I saw the movie. I have not been this excited to like go to a theater, sit down, eat popcorn and a nice soda as I was since Endgame's premiere. And you know what? It didn't let down the theater experience. And you guys always know where to find me at Just Ryan again on Twitter and the Geek Fix on YouTube. And guys, give me some suggestions on some future films to do. Depending on if any films get moved this summer, I'm cautiously optimistic that they don't. So yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for checking us out. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace.